It's my honor to introduce our next poet, Edward Ragg. He is widely published in a variety of distinguished journals, and I won't go through the list because we'll be here all night. He is the winner of the 2012 Cinnamon Press Poetry Award, which led to the publication of his first poetry collection, The Force That Takes, which I know he has some copies of, so I hope you will rush him after the reading and buy one. It's a beautiful book. It is not, however, his first book. His first book is a scholarly exegesis of the work of Wallace Stevens. So we have among us a Wallace Stevens scholar. He wears many hats. He's also one of the few Western professors in humanities at Tsinghua University, and he also started and runs a wine consultancy company, Dragon Phoenix Wine Consulting, with his lovely wife, Fanny. So what I think I like most, although it's very hard to crystallize my appreciation for his poetry in one short statement, but I think what I like most about his work is that he has a marvelous way of dropping these little gems of realization in the midst of very, very clean language. I think it might be easy to miss as you're listening, so pay attention. Edward.
Thank you, Eleanor. Now I'm done for now you mentioned Wallace Stevens. Stevens wrote a poem in the late 40s called Large Red Man Reading, and I think that's probably tonight in this unusually clement weather in Beijing. I'd like to begin from read a few short poems from this volume, The Force That Takes. I appreciate you being here for some time already, some of you, but I'm very grateful to everyone who's organised this evening's poetry reading for being here and arranging it. The first poem is called Chongmen Market. The great thing about reading this poem here in Beijing is I don't have to explain what jiaozi are. I also don't need to explain what Chongmen is. And this is a poem written at winter time. And I don't need to explain, therefore, that Chinese public buildings during winter are often, the outside doors are often draped with a thick coat-like material, a bit like tarpaulin, which is mentioned in this poem. This poem is really about arriving in Beijing and finding yourself functionally illiterate, which I did back in 2007. The other thing, just briefly to say about this particular market, is it no longer exists. It was an indoor market next to the Chongmen Dijiajiang, and I used to live nearby it. And then, to my consternation, a few years later, I drove past in a taxi, and the whole area was leveled. And so, of course, this is, in a sense, a tribute to something that doesn't exist anymore. So this is called Chongmen Market. Its doors are winter coats, dressed for the season, like dumpling wrappers. The snapped dough rolled in wafer rounds, deft hands cupping pork mince and scallion into ear-nipped jiaozi. Ahead, river trout squirm on wet marble, like sprung bows, as fresh as a definition, flipping alongside crates of blue crab, and, fresher still, whole tanks of catfish plucked from the water in barely a cleaver's drop. I intone in snail Mandarin the prices of eggs, pork belly, mutton, counting change in the abacus of a new speech, and would like to say more, something about the colours of the aubergines, the less recognized fruits, the tastes of them. This next poem is even shorter. It's called Anthem at Morning, and it was just included in the Forward Book of Poetry for 2014. As we know in Beijing, we live in a situation where it's very rare to have bright mornings and clear mornings. This poem was written in Beijing, but it makes no mention of it, in fact. And it's simply called Anthem at Morning. How wonderful it would be, in this brightest of mornings, to walk in the clear light, not of possibility, but purpose, and to sing in that same clear light of the purpose that, in all possibility, is today. Something else that's slightly rare in Beijing, especially in winter time, is of course snow. We've had a bit of snow in recent years, but usually, as you'll know, it's so dry during winter we don't get snow at all. This is a short poem which is called Snow in Beijing, and one of the things it's concerned with is simply the surprise of it occurring. So this is called Snow in Beijing. Everything is surprise. New drivers uncertain of their wheels, the swishing wiper blades. Children retrieving their footprints like first steps. Strays impressed at their sinking paws. The gift of the unfamiliar, if we are to receive it, is its familiar terms. The summer palace shot in white, trees ponderous with ice. Arid capital, the reception of your millions is as the snowfall's persistent padding. My outstretched palm, the crowds of snowflakes collecting there, becomes your antenna, as if, to your surprise, you had received us overnight, alone. I'm just going to read one short final poem. I was going to read 3, I decided to read 4. You can kill me afterwards if you want. But it's late on Sunday evening, so I'm very impressed you turned up. It's fantastic. The final poem actually relates to Beijing in spring. We've had the illusion of spring beginning. It's a poem called Beijing in Bright Spring Light. One of the things I've noticed, which is very obvious, is that children here in China, no less in Beijing, very young babies are often swaddled in very large amounts of clothes. And you see them sweating on the D-chair or wherever you might see them. And in my own experience teaching at Tsinghua and in other teaching situations, I had to be careful opening windows because I think my students will die, and they think that they see me dressed like this on the Tsinghua campus in winter time, they think I will die. So this is called Beijing in Bright Spring Light. It's only loosely connected with what I was just describing. It's about the Fourth Ring Road as well. Beijing in Bright Spring Light. Willows of the Fourth Ring sprout little shoots of green. A girl idles in Chaoyang Park, flanked by a scampering toy dog, guiltless of impressions, or so we say. The babies come swaddled to near suffocation, sweating in the new spring light in immaculate pushchairs. The unframed enthusiasm of a child. An old woman, beautiful in age, sucks the juice from a peach, insatiable, traveling at remarkable taxi-driven speeds. It is impossible to desist, guiltless of impressions, though we are innocent and may crave the unframed enthusiasm of a child, which lives for us in the ice-sculpted months of memory, or in laughter, unleashed upon a face, spontaneously, in the bright spring light. Amazing.